Welcome to Ravens Across the Pond, your place for everything Baltimore Ravens. From a fresh, European perspective. Plenty of laughs, plenty of piss-taking, and of course, questionable insights. Sit back, relax, grab a beer, and enjoy the show.
Evening, one and all. We are back for another episode of Ravens Across the Pond. We were meant to be going live a couple of times this week to discuss some pretty big news. And it's not often not often I do this. I'll give this guy any credit whatsoever. But I owe Dickie a thank you for bailing last night and going to bed early, because it would have been some backtracking podcast tonight if we went live yesterday. So Dickie, thank you very much for that. Dickie, Nathan, welcome to the show.
Hello. What a difference 24 hours makes, eh?
Oh, doesn't it just? And for those just joining in as well, you may notice we have a new guy in the bottom left-hand corner. Nathan, Dickie, all the viewers, listeners, welcome DT to the show. How are we, DT?
I think I've turned to the wrong link. I don't know where I am. I'm all good. I'm back from hiatus with newborn. Although the benefit of having a newborn, as I haven't mentioned it enough, have I, Tom, is that it woke me up at 1 o'clock. I don't know if I said it's a he. He woke me up at 1 o'clock last night, which meant that I quickly had to look at my phone and saw everything kicking off, and then meant I was not awake for the baby. I was just awake to work out what the fuck was going on with Maxx Crosby. But there we go. What a night.
Yeah, it's madness. I mean, where do we start? Obviously, free agency is up and running. We've had the madness. We're going to dive into that. Obviously, earlier on in the week, the big news was that the Ravens had made a move, offering up 2 firsts, 2026 first-round pick, a 2027 first-round pick for Maxx Crosby to bring him over from the Raiders. That news broke early hours in the morning. Again, it was one of them. I woke up in the middle of the night. I'm of that age now where if I drink any liquid past midday, I am up in the middle of the night going to the toilet. And for some reason, I didn't bother checking my phone to see what the time was. So I missed everything. I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, seeing the news that Maxx Crosby was, of course, going to be a Raven. We all know now that's not going to be the case. Richard, you took an awful lot of stick. I think some of the words that were being bandied around were mood hoover. There might have been a couple of more impolite words. You might have been told to go off in a certain direction. When this trade was originally announced, you weren't best pleased, were you?
Yeah, I think it's funny, actually, because I think I'd actually got my head around it and was starting to feel really excited, and then woke up this morning to the news that it was off. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, and maybe this is just because my football journey as a fan has been with the Ravens, and we traditionally value our picks so much. 2 firsts felt, I mean, that wasn't going all in, was it? 2 firsts for a pass rusher was going all in and getting all of your mates' money and putting all of that into the middle as well. Just, it felt expensive to me. And that's not a comment on Maxx Crosby. I think for any player in the league, in a way, if someone was saying, oh, well, we're spending 2 firsts on this guy to fix a big hole on our team. And, I think you're saying that you have to win a Super Bowl with him on the team to make the investment worth it. And I just thought it was not an investment that I would make. Just thinking of the opportunity cost. We need cheap guys on the team because we are paying a lot of really talented players, including Lamar Jackson. You get 10 years of cost controlled production, don't you, with two first round picks. And I also didn't like it in terms of we all knew that there was two holes on our team, really, the interior offensive line and then an extra pass rusher. I didn't really know what the plan was to fix the interior offensive line if we're committing that capital to Crosby. Like, there's no point paying Crosby that if the offense can't get anything going. So I think those are the reasons why I was reticent.
I think reticence not a strong enough word for how you really felt. Is it, Dickie? Dean, thank you for the comment, Roulette. Thank you for tuning in. Guys, if you're tuning in and you're on YouTube, head on over to X, give us a follow. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Apple. Obviously, so the news was the early hours this morning. Was DT the news broke that the trade was off? Obviously, the Ravens and every team in the league knew the injury concerns around Maxx Crosby this offseason. Obviously, the Raiders sat him for the last two games of the regular season. Obviously, he announced his great displeasure at that. That some can say that's admirable of him to do that. He doesn't like being off the field of play. Obviously, reports coming out that the original plan was for it to just be a clean-up of the knee, and then it ended up being a bit more of a serious surgery. By the time the doctors had looked at it, I think reports are saying 5 doctors and surgeons have looked at it, and although there was no immediate concerns, there was concerns about the long-term longevity around Maxx Crosby. And when you're giving up 2 first-round picks, Richard touched on that there, that Ravens have never traded away a first-round pick and to then go away and trade 2 first-round picks. Obviously, the risk factor, I think that move was rather than risk anyway, the age of him, and is he getting to that cliff where he's going to fall off? But it was high risk, low reward, wasn't it, for the Ravens in the end, and that is ultimately why they decided to pull the plug.
Yeah, I think it's the risk factor that comes into it, really, isn't it? Like, you're not just betting this year's. I think if it had just been this year's first rounder and then it was a later round, in next year, whatever, might be a different story. I think the fact that it was kind of going to fuck us over for a couple of years if it didn't pay off was ultimately something that you couldn't gamble on. I mean, we don't know the full extent of the injury situation. Maybe it's being protected because it's looking after Max's future as well if he does get a trade elsewhere, etc., and don't want to ruin his opportunities. But it was a huge move for us at the time. I was buzzing for it. I was more buzzing that we actually made that move than anything. Like, to see the Ravens actually put their cards in, put their chips in and say, you know what, we're going to go for this is something we've never seen, as you say. Like, probably the biggest trade move we've made since we traded into the first for Lamar Jackson. That at the time, everyone was like, well, this is massive. Like, obviously that paid off. It was even bigger. And yes, everyone that I spoke to loves the player. Loads of people I spoke to have said that Maxx Crosby was their favourite player that didn't play for their team. Not just Ravens fans. I've heard that from fans of other people that originally messaged me saying how jealous they were. So roller coaster is definitely the way I described the last couple of days.
I mean, you go from you spend 2 first-round picks on Maxx Crosby. The only other notable acquisition on the first day of free agency was John Simpson to shore up the interior offensive line, who is an upgrade on Falele, but that's not saying much. Anything would have been an upgrade there. And then it gets called off, and then you're suddenly thinking, Christ, well, everyone that's gone out of the door, I don't think realistically it affected many of the people going out of the door. Maybe Drummond Jones could have stuck around, but it seemed like just with one guy coming in after they called it off, you're wondering, all right, what the hell's going on now? We've got 2 first-round picks. But thankfully, I guess that Trey Hendrickson was in play still. The tinfoil hat brigade and the conspiracy theorists of the league are crying foul, but ultimately the media insiders who got to get their scoops are just as complicit in this, because as we all know, no trades are even finalised until I think it's later today, isn't it? It would have been officially finalised. So nothing was, nothing was technically signed. Pending physical means pending physical, and as much as we already knew about Maxx Crosby's injury history, if something extra came up, then, and if that's the story that Eric DaCosta tries to sell us in 15, 20 minutes time, then you have to go with that. There's obviously no repercussions of what we've done. People said that agents wouldn't want to deal with us for the rest of this free agency window. Well, look what's happened since the Trey Hendrickson news. We've now brought another 3 guys on board who all look like they're going to be sterling additions. And as Rich says, we're back at pick 14, which is a great spot to be in. Don't be surprised if the Ravens now trade back and go back to the old Ravens way of doing business. But after a very weird 24 hours, it now seems to be shaping up pretty nicely.
Yeah, I think on this, before we kind of move on too far, this story is essentially injured NFL player fails physical. I don't understand why it's being blown up into this massive thing. Like, it happens all the time. It might not happen, in a high-profile way with Maxx Crosby and a trade involving multiple first-round picks, but this is like an everyday bit of business for the league. Players fail their physicals because it's a physical game and they get hurt.
So full stop at it. Full stop at it. But that was just a statement. It was just a statement, that, Richard.
I don't think Richard's ever made a statement before, has he? It's normally a monologue.
No, I mean, you've got to go back in the early days of the pod where it was his only statement was, well, it's got to be something. In fact, that was probably the last time you were on, DT.
That's true. And now, what was the problem with Maxx Crosby's knee? Well, it's got to be something.
Yeah, I mean, look. When you look at this whole deal, bottom line, it's a business decision. There's so many ways you can look at it. Look, Steve Biscotti is being vocal in the fact that he is going to eventually move on and sell the team. I think that's why one of the reasons why they were aggressive postseason in making the changes that they did at the franchise. So giving up 2 first-round picks for a guy that, you might get one good year out of him, but then he starts to fall off a cliff. It's a lot of capital to give up. Look, as I've said, I'll just go through. So 5 different doctors, some independent, one of them being the Cowboys knee specialist, who, by the way, the Cowboys had made an offer to sign Maxx Crosby. They offered a first and a second for 2027 to get Maxx Crosby. The Ravens obviously went to 2 firsts to get the deal done. All said that the prognosis long term was too concerning. In regards to some of the stuff that come out today about, the Trey Hendrickson's come out and said that he was under the impression that he was coming to Baltimore to join up with Crosby. And then, Rap Sheet and Schefter have come out today and said that, look, the Ravens have really wanted to make this deal happen. They even tried to make it work once the bad news of the video came out, rumours that they'd gone back to the Raiders with, trying sort of different offer out. But the way that some of these experienced analysts, pundits, passionate fans have come out with this mob mentality, and trying to put all the blame on the Ravens here. This in no uncertain terms, it's not the Ravens' fault. With anything in business and in sports, you can have a period of exclusivity, a period of due diligence. If you're going to take over, for example, a football club in the English Premier League, you enter a period of due diligence. You get access to the books. You see what the accounts are saying. You see what the revenue streams are like. You see the value of the players that you have got on the roster, the value of the training ground, the sponsorships. At the end of that period of exclusivity, if things don't add up to you and the risk outweighs the reward, then I'm sorry, the deal is off. And the bottom line is the Ravens had till 4:00 this afternoon US time to get the salary cap sorted anyway to sign Maxx Crosby. Do you think if the Ravens hadn't sorted out the cap issues before then and Maxx Crosby deal fell through because of salary cap, do you think there'd be as much uproar as there would be now? I bet my bottom dollar that there wouldn't be. It's just been a mob mentality by people who, you know, have gone out and have tried to soil the Ravens' name, and it baffles me how the fuck Bills Mafia fans are taking some moral high ground here, like they've got anything to say. Look, the bottom line is the risk outweighed the reward, and the Ravens have done the right thing and gone, we're not going to give you 2 firsts. This isn't happening. What else can we give you? Raiders don't want to do a deal now. I think where it needs looking at is the NFL policy around these type of deals and how these deals get leaked. I think the press needs to be looked at. Why are these deals getting leaked before it is done? You see it in other sports, you know, where these, you know, so kind of super agents or like super in the nose. Fabrizio Romano, for example, in the soccer world, you know, 99% of the time when he says it's done, it's done. But for some reason in the NFL, they report these things 4 or 5 days before it's actually done, and something goes wrong. All of a sudden, it's the, you know, the franchise who was bringing in the player's fault. It's bollocks, utter bollocks.
I think, you know, at the end of the day, you think of Maxx Crosby, you think about the player Maxx Crosby is, the one that everyone thinks we're going to get. It's a player who plays pretty much every snap, who gives his all, who absolutely smashes into players, smashes into quarterbacks, goes all out, plays through injuries, even when he probably shouldn't do, he just goes anywhere and does it. Like, that's the player that everyone thinks, yeah, I'd love to have that guy on my team. If there's any chance that player is not the player that's going to turn up next season, then that's not worth the 2 picks. And that's what that's what the reports would have said. That's what the doctors would have said. You know, yeah, he's probably going to be a good player still, but he's not going to be the same player. And if that's the case, then he's not worth what we thought he was.
Richard, Jay's dropped a comment. I'm going to give it to you. The Ravens were clearly willing to make a huge statement move for Maxx Crosby. Can you see the Ravens making another swing for elite players like Crosby during the offseason?
I think it's harder now, isn't it? Because teams have kind of undergone the first wave of free agency. They're setting themselves up to be as successful as possible. And therefore, you probably imagine the opportunities for a big trade are much less because teams wanting to move away and clear that cap space from, you know, perhaps big name elite players would have had those players on the market already. I don't think so now. I think obviously we signed Hendrickson. I know we haven't discussed that massively yet, but I think the D line is more or less done. I think they've obviously made the decision on Simpson that they know him. He's been a good player for us in the past. He's at a decent price. He's going to provide that average guard play. I don't think this is a Ravens team with loads of holes that need massively filling. I don't think we need a massive name wide receiver. I don't think we need a massive name cornerback. So really, you're looking at probably center being the biggest hole on this team, and I'm not sure what they're going to do, but I really can't see them kind of breaking the bank for a center. There's guys in the draft that they may like, or they may be kind of like a mid-tier guy that they can swing a smaller trade for. But yeah, I don't see a blockbuster like the Maxx Crosby deal happening.
Yeah, I think you've got to, stick to what the new plan seemingly now is, where you've got your number 14 back. You've still got a load of picks in the middle of the draft, where the value is something the Ravens always seem to be good at finding, and we've plugged a lot of the holes. Obviously, we lost a few tight ends. We've replaced. We've got Wheezy back. We signed another quarterback today. So, in terms of actual depth kind of holes now, there's not a lot going on. the line is probably still an issue. So I think probably the more likely scenario now is you get to 14 and see what happens. Is there a lineman there that you really like? If there is, go ahead. And if not, I think we're probably going to see some classic Ravens drafting back, get a few more picks on the board and kind of move around the board that way and just kind of get your value where you can. But yeah, I think, as Rich said, I don't really see who's the biggest name player left who's been floating around available for a trade. AJ Brown, don't see that happening. Christ, AJ Brown's not happy with the targets he gets in Philadelphia. Imagine the absolute uproar he'll have when he gets 2 or 3 targets a game in Baltimore. Don't see that happening. So I think you just got to kind of work with what you've got now, use your picks, fill out the depth, get a centre from somewhere, whether that's in the draft, first or second.
I was about to say what Dean's just put up there. Like, that's probably the only move I could see us maybe being aggressive is not from a trade for a player necessarily, but potentially trading up in the draft. Like, you know, there's been reports today that, and whether this is just covering our asses from the Twitter backlash, but there's been reports that we were going to be in for Crosby and Hendrickson and go for a real fucking aggressive rush. And if that's the case, then maybe we really want an absolute beast of a pass rusher. And if we see one that we like in the draft that we think is going early, maybe we try and go all in to trade up for them. Maybe that's a possibility. But outside of, you know, being aggressive in the draft, I don't necessarily see any big moves.
I mean, well, one thing I will say is that, like, the move for the move for Maxx Crosby was obviously a clear shift in mentality from EDC in the organisation. I remember when we were discussing towards the back end of last season, and I was very vocal on the fact that I don't think EDC is being aggressive enough. I don't think the front office is being aggressive enough. It was obviously an aggressive move, but one that obviously they've sort of done the due diligence over. In the end, they've, you know, it hasn't gone through. So I'd like to think that aggressiveness and that mentality stays now, and the attack the draft as best they can. Look, we've mentioned them a couple of times now. It was announced earlier on today, Trey Hendrickson is a Raven, 4 years, $112 million. Obviously, Trey come out and said he thought he was joining, you know, he was under the impression that he'd be there with Maxx Crosby. Look, I think bottom line is, after everything that went on, the Ravens have still landed a star pass rusher, and they've still got their 2 first-round picks in the draft. I mean, just immediate thoughts on Trey Hendrickson becoming a Raven.
It's a great signing. His injury history is not nearly as bad as Maxx Crosby is. I think it was a bit of a hernia, and who knows how much of his lack of playing last year was even down to injuries, or whether he was just trying to get his money before he even got to this stage. And ultimately, it annoys Bengals fans, which is even more funny for us. So he's a great player. He's still at a good age. It's not really a 4-year, $112 million contract. It's more like 2 years with an option for a 3rd year. If he's not kicking it about the 3rd year, you get a bit of dead money, but it's an easy one to bite into. So think of it as 2 years of Trey Hendrickson, make a push, you keep your picks. I mean, Christ, I think the Ravens have stumbled arse over backwards into probably a much better scenario than which we probably would have had. He's a very good player. The sack rate, I think, if you look at his stats compared to 2019, I think with him and Maxx Crosby, I think Hendrickson actually outstats Crosby pretty much across the board. I'm not taking anything away from Maxx Crosby. You know, he was doing it playing for a far inferior team most of the time, so those stats can lie. But Hendrickson's just a great prospect, and he knows the AFC North, so he knows how the game's going to be played in that division, and he's just going to fight. And those 2 games against the Bengals, you know, he's going to be super up for every year, and he's just a really good player. And it's not just Trey Hendrickson, it's the pieces that we've managed to surround himself with for the rest of the day. And if you've got Hendrickson and you've got Beaks, if you've got Beaks at any part of the year, that'll be great to see those 2 guys kind of suit up together. So I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Trey Hendrickson. Over the last 5 seasons with the Bengals, he's recorded 61 sacks, the 4th most in the NFL that time. He is 2nd in quarterback pressure percentage rate since 2021. That's over a minimum of 1,000 pass rushers. Micah Parsons is top of that. Trey Hendrickson number 2, Will Anderson 3, Nick Bonito 4, Miles Jarrett 5. They're getting a guy that gets to the quarterback, as you say, Nathan. You know, not as many injury concerns as Maxx Crosby. DJ Ferrero's just jumped in, the guy from Patriots touchback. Great signing. Is he worth that amount of money, DT?
I mean, I think it's a slight overpay, but I don't have an issue with it. I think he was always going to be more than I think we would have been initially prepared for. But if it fixes our pass rush, and we know how diabolical it has been, then it's absolutely worth it. And it's a player who is going to absolutely make an impact. You know, did the Maxx Crosby situation drive the price up a bit? Maybe it did. Don't know. Like I said on some of the communities earlier, in an ideal world, I'd have got it for 22 million and we'd have kept our 3rd round comp pick. But that was just kind of wishful thinking, really. And more than happy to get him in for the money. More than happy to.
Yeah, I think he's a force multiplier here, across the D line. So, we've got Mike Green hopefully starting on the other edge. Did some promising things in his rookie season, but perhaps didn't produce the numbers. Although nobody on the team produced any pass rush numbers last year. I think Nathan's discussed, the impact of Madubuike in the middle. We've also got Travis Jones. I think this is really a D-line now that's going to come at quarterbacks from multiple angles and really going to be giving the quarterback fits in protection. I think he is absolutely worth the money. I think to an extent, if you want that elite production, you have to pay people good prices. And I appreciate that Hendrickson isn't necessarily in the big 5 pass rushers in the league, but we're also not paying him like a big 5 pass rusher. We're paying him like a top 10 pass rusher, and I think he has great upside for us. So yeah, really, really happy with the deal. The one thing I would say, a note of caution, and I think perhaps this is where the changing of the guard in coaching comes into play. I don't think Hendrickson would be a Harbaugh guy. He doesn't necessarily play the run very well. He's not stout, setting the edge. And I don't think that with Harbaugh in town, he would have been a player that we would have prioritized getting. But you know what? I think given the lack of overall rush last year, I don't care that much if he doesn't play the run very well. We can find ways to deal with that, but we do need to be getting the quarterback under pressure and getting the quarterback on the floor if we want to win lots of football games. So yeah, very happy.
I think the last thing on the money as well is if you believe some of the other people out there this morning, we kind of had to come from a bit of a negotiating position where the Colts might have been thinking they were the favourites and maybe already had maybe something in place, and we kind of had to come over the top at the last minute to kind of get it over the line a bit more quickly. So maybe if we'd done this all along, we might have ended up saving ourselves a couple of mil, but this is the price of doing things the way we've done it. Ultimately, if he gets minimum of 10 sacks a year, you're not going to cry too much about the extra couple of mil overspend.
Yeah, good move all around. It's up until today, it was all outgoings for the Ravens free agency. Mentioned them earlier on the show. Tyler Linderbaum. I think it was pretty certain that he wasn't going to be a Raven anymore. And I go back to the comments that Eric DeCosta made at the combine when Eric DeCosta kind of went against his status quo of keeping things in-house, and he was very public in saying that they'd offered Tyler Linderbaum a market-setting offer. Since go out to that market-setting offer was 4 years, $88 million.
3 years.
Was it 3 years?
3 years, 81.
Oh.
Get your bag, Tyler. I mean, come on.
But the fact that the Raiders are paying, $27 million a year, that is just something where, you know, as Richard touched earlier on, like, you know, I think before we went on air, you know, you've drafted them in the first round, and you know the way you're thinking of some people is, but you want your first round guys to be, you know, at the franchise for 10 years. But I don't think any organisation in the right mind needs to be paying Tyler Linderbaum 27, 28 million.
To be fair to the Raiders, they were struggling against, I know a lot of teams struggle against the salary cap, but we do forget there is actually a floor minimum that you are required to spend over the course of a certain amount of years. So they did actually have to spend some money this season. So
they could have just signed me. I'd have gone there and played nothing. I'd have taken a couple of million to help them out.
Would you have made the 53?
Just some breaking news on the pod, courtesy of our guy Fucko. Nathan, this one's for you, mate.
Okay.
Yeah, you've done Tom in there, because Tom gave the actual Ravens offer that we think the Ravens gave, and you just counted with the Raiders.
Oh, I thought we were talking about what the offer was. Oh.
No, it's because you weren't listening. I think you did a Richard there and you fell asleep probably. We were talking about what the Ravens had offered him, which was a perfectly reasonable offer that was market setting.
I mean, look,
he was going to come on to talk about.
I think you let yourself down there. That was poor from you.
Well, I've only got the numbers in front of me, what was actually signed, not what was offered. Who cares about ifs, buts? I don't care about ifs, buts, or maybes. It's about what was signed on the dotted line, and it was 3 years, 81 mil. And another thing, if you're the Raiders, you're locked on to draft Mendoza this year, right? Why
Nathan,
not?
It's about telling the full story of something. Like, the full story of why Tyler Linderbaum is not a Raven is because what we offered them was sensible from the Ravens' point of view, and the Raiders have overpaid him massively. It's about telling the full story. Imagine reading 7 books of Harry fucking Potter and Voldemort wasn't in a single book. Like, you don't get the story, do you? Like, come on, Nathan, prepare the full story.
I don't know why you've shoehorned Harry Potter into this of all things, but fair enough. All I'm going to say is I can get it from a Raiders perspective. And a good thing for Tyler Linderbaum as well, it's only a 3-year deal. He's going to be back at 28 years old, hitting free agency again. This man, I know we talk about generational bag getters and people like Kirk Cousins come up, but if you've never seen Tom look so smug, you've clearly not watched a lot of the episodes, because Christ, this is just this is a weekly occurrence for him.
Nathan's got into Richard kind of word vomit now, just to try and cover his tracks. He's digging hard.
Anyway, says the person that's not been on a pod since like week 8.
Right, settle down, everyone. So,
head's gone. Nathan's going to do a Jamie O'Hara. Nathan's going to do a Jamie O'Hara here and storm off the sports bar. Can't handle the heat, Nathan. Get out the kitchen.
I'm completely fine.
The point is that the Raiders overpaid massively. Like, that's an insane contract. You know, I love Linderbaum. I'm glad he's got his bag, but that is as insane as fucking Deshaun Watson's was back in the day. Like, that is mad money.
I think I saw something. Tyler Linderbaum is the 6th highest O-lineman paid in the league now. Yeah. And that's ridiculous. Like, I get the salary floor argument. I get the protect your rookie quarterback argument. You're telling me they couldn't have done it for 24 million? You know, to go from the second highest paid center, who arguably is a better player in Creed Humphrey, averaging 18 million a year, to go to, was it 27 million a year? That is ridiculous. Like, have a word with yourself, Raiders GM. What are you doing? I'm not criticizing the player and I'm not criticizing the process, but that is a stupid amount of money, isn't it? Like Tyler Linderbaum would have gone there for 23 million and considered himself lucky.
I can only think they wanted to get it done quickly. They didn't want to have to worry about other teams like negotiating with him, because realistically, who would want to sign for the Raiders when they've got choices of other things? Like, as I think Tom was about to say before we rightfully jumped in to correct Nathan. End of the day, it's one of the things that you to make, just get your new rookie quarterback a little bit happier about having to be drafted to the Raiders is, okay, yes, but we've got you a great center. Like, that in itself is a slight little upgrade for Paul Mendoza. But
I have to say as well, I think this gives there has been lots of chatter about, was Linderbaum a good first round pick, on the basis that we were always going to have this problem with not being able to 5th-year option him, not being able to tag him. You know, we didn't have a lot of leverage to re-sign. I think when I saw that dollar amount, EDC just got a free pass, because that nobody could have predicted that. And I think we did try and make Linderbaum the highest paid center in the league. And I think that's fair enough. There's only so much you can do. When stupid offers come in, the front office can't do anything with that.
Well, I think that's the point that just came through in the comments there from Ronald. I missed it before I went off, but you know, if it's that close to, if it's only a couple million more than we offered, then yeah, he'd have stayed with us. It's like, you know, if shit school down the road offered you only a little bit more of a pay rise, Rich, you're not leaving, are you? So, you know, it's got to be a eye-watering offer to tempt you away from the glorious place that you work.
Indeed, I'm a big fan of the place I work, just in case anyone from there is watching.
And you wouldn't accept 2 million more, so
just on the Tyler Linderbaum thing. I was on the Patriots Touchback pod last night, just discussing some free agency, and you know, obviously the question came up about, you know, the 5th-year option, and obviously the value that was calculated at, and then the more pressing issue in my eyes and a lot of people's eyes is, do the NFL really now need to have a look at how they work out the cost of tags for guys in Tyler Linderbaum's position? Because if you're paying him 27 million, you know, that's like left tackle money. Is there something that the league now needs to look into, and how they work out the cost of a tag for, you know, a guy in Tyler Linderbaum's position?
I'm gonna say something spicy here. They need to bin off this. They need to bin off the tag. Like, I find it utterly ridiculous from a player point of view. You know, I'm not one of these people that would say get rid of the draft and the players have no rights. But, you know, everyone gets a 4-year rookie contract and then you're a free agent. I find it, I actually don't enjoy the fact at all that players are kind of basically held to ransom through 5th-year options, and potentially, you know, they might have 2 tags. And in a career where, you know, the average career length is 3 years, a first-round player could effectively be tied to a team and not be able to reach free agency for 7 years. And I don't think that's acceptable. I would spin off the tags altogether.
The options and tags are all at least fully guaranteed, so my heart doesn't bleed for the players too much if they're getting tagged.
It's only 1 year at a time, isn't it? They don't have a chance to kind of get that multi-year contract security. They don't have a chance to maybe go and find an environment that they want to go and work in. It's not good for player welfare.
There is tag abuse. I think the tag was initially kind of there for teams to give them a bit more time to settle on longer term contracts, and that kind of premise has completely fallen out of the window. And I know if you tag a player twice in a row, then the tag escalates. So again, if they have to do it year on year, but players don't tend to want that 1 year on year thing. So multi-year security is obviously better for players. Maybe you change it so that first rounders are still subject to 5-year deals, but you ramp up the 5th-year escalator on it, or just make sure they get more money out of it. I think rookies are incredibly underpaid anyway. So if you're going to start anyway, you might just want to look at that. And not going back to the way it used to be, where you had the Raiders wasting all that money on Jamarcus Russell back in the day, and how kind of rookie quarterback deals used to be, or how any kind of rookie deals used to be. So, but there's obviously some kind of happy medium.
Obviously, while we're live, EDC is speaking to the media. I put a trustworthy guy in charge of the job of getting some quotes for us from this, because if I asked Josh, then we'd get told about it in next week's episode. He's just dropped in and said that the Crosby trade hasn't stopped my phone from ringing today. That's from EDC. So obviously, all
Yeah, but
this,
that's just Fellaini just ringing constantly, asking. I don't know if I've missed some calls from you. I don't know if my phone's working. Did you mean to ring me?
yeah. In regards to obviously some more news today, Lamar Jackson kind of restructured, no extension yet, but they're hoping to get an extension done in the next week or two. Restructured, so he's, what is it, Richard? About $39 million worth of cap space that's been freed up.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think when we talk about Lamar Jackson restructuring, I don't think that we should talk about this like Lamar Jackson has done the Ravens a favor. I mean, it just means that Lamar Jackson has had a whole bunch more money guaranteed to him. And I think he was probably always going to earn that money anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's probably done the Ravens less of a favor, really, because it increases our cap liability for him next year.
Yeah, it doesn't do us a lot of favors. It's ultimately a last resort move, isn't it? Because obviously the way you wanted to lower his cap hit was through the extension, and you can push more years out. So next year's starting thing, and you're not going to get the cap benefit next year from giving a new deal, because obviously you're pushing that money out into pro-ride sinus bonuses. So that whatever the 39 mil is over the remaining 3 years. So next year's like 10-year minimum. You're probably not saving now. I know the cap is going up at like an astonishing rate. So ultimately, it probably doesn't matter too much, but it's going to give Lamar more leverage when it comes to going back to the table. And maybe that's kind of what his negotiating tactic was all along. He's a man that's tough to negotiate with because obviously doesn't have an agent. So it's not a standard negotiating thing you get with Lamar.
There we go. Just run out of time on the extension, but still hopeful to get it done. So the interesting thing is, though, with the restructure, obviously they had to get something restructured to be able to get Hendricks on board or make some of the moves that we've made today. Haven't seen a Madubuike restructure yet, which that would have been an obvious one to do. And I know Chris has talked about this quite a lot. Obviously, down on the show, we've been on a couple of times. I kind of expected that to be the one that was done, but the fact that it's not is possibly a very promising sign. Don't want to kind of jinx anything or say anything too soon, because obviously we know the situation is a sensitive one, but everything's pointing along with the video of him working out in the gym that he could be returning. So yeah. Bringing up these cuts, there's opportunities away that's not been done that could lead to some good things.
Before we go into some more ingoings today, because there's been plenty of them, just to obviously go through and recap some of the outgoings.
Can we pour some out for my boy Pat Ricard?
We
can. Right over my crotch now. I've got to really wear shorts. I didn't think I was going to pour as much as that, but I don't know if I'm going to bet up for a touchdown next season. Now I'm not going to get my stat bet in with a Pat Ricard touchdown or a Keaton Mitchell one. Pat
Ricard got paid. The Keaton Mitchell one's a weird one that I don't get that one. Isaiah Likely to the Giants, 3 years, $40 million. Draymond Jones to the Patriots, 3 years, $39.5 million. DT, I know you'll be a fan of this one. Alohi Gilman to the Chiefs, 3 years, $24.75. Charlie Kohler got paid. Chargers, 3 years, $24.3 million. Adarius Washington, Giants, 1 year, $3 million. About $2 million too much there. The one that staggers me, and I know the New York Giants special teams was awful, piss poor last year. What franchise in the right mind is paying $4 million for a punter?
One that's got the money to burn.
I'd say bunch in the league. It's what he's familiar with. I mean, I didn't like it to lose him. It was one of the ones between him and
like
Cody.
Lose him, but you're not paying him $4 million, are
you? No, you're not.
And this is what happens when bad teams with lots of cap space have money to burn on day one of free agency.
They just know they're going to have to punt a lot as well, probably. So.
Oh yeah, his leg's going to get a lot of. Well, not sure. I'll retract that. I'm riding quite high on the Giants. Well, actually, maybe not. They've got a lot of good players, but I don't know whether I agree with what their scheme's going to be.
Nathan, what are your thoughts on the Giants' salary floor there, Nathan?
I think they're doing all right on floor. The Raiders were abysmal. That can only explain what's going on with them.
See, I like with the Ravens when you were talking cap and salary floor, you managed to get like the whole story there, and you'd explain the full story.
Sorry, I thought we were a full story podcast.
Do you think you could do that for every subject that you talk about, Nathan?
Only ones which don't involve you in the conversation.
The chain of thoughts. So just on touching on Keaton Mitchell. What does that mean for Justice Hill?
Well, look, I think the Justice, the Keaton Mitchell deal makes a lot of sense in terms of. I know there is no deal currently. He is a free agent. 3 million quid or slightly north of 3 million quid is a lot of money to fully guarantee somebody who might not make the roster next year. And as much as we love Keaton Mitchell's story and we love his pace, he is a bit one-dimensional. You know, he doesn't really pass block. He doesn't catch passes out of the backfield. We really like what he does for us. But is that enough for, you know, potentially the third back on a roster these days? I'm really not sure it is. Justice Hill has pass blocked his ass off for the previous 2 years. He's quite explosive out of the backfield. Like, he's worth the money. Keaton Mitchell, I think he will possibly be on our 90-man roster, might even make our 53. But you know, he's much more vet min than people realize. He's not worth 3 million quid where he is at the moment. And if he can learn how to pass block, then fair enough. He's going to have a career in the league. But I'm actually not that sad. I think it was a really wise business decision not to guarantee him 3 million quid.
Yeah, he put a story out. I think he put a story on social as well. We've been on this pod sort of saying like a lot of love for the city kind of thing, that essentially kind of saying that he's not going to be offered back kind of thing by the looks of it. But, you know, even on special teams, he was a returner for a lot of last season, and I don't remember any particularly impressive returns. Like, and then, you know, we've still got Ali. I'm pretty sure he's been released, is he?
Still knocking about.
So, you know, we've got people that can step up to be our third choice running back, like people with speed as well. So
yeah.
I think it was a nice story. Yeah. You know, there's a heart story behind it, isn't there? A heart story with Mitchell, and that's what it is. Everyone kind of loved the story. They loved him returning from injury. They loved the touchdowns he got, and then he got injured, and then he came back, and it was, oh yeah, you know, and his dad. You know, we don't spend with our heart.
Too much romance in sports. Do you think the guy? So Jay said, do you guys think the Ravens need to make another splash? I don't think it's about need. I think if they're gonna this aggressive mentality that they've obviously gone into the start of the free agency with making a trade for Maxx Crosby, indicates that they could possibly make another splash. I wouldn't be surprised if there is another trade. Is it going to be this week, next week? I'm just not sure. David says, why is it so hard for LJ to agree to a new extension? Seems like other QBs extend at the drop of a hat. Why is LJ so difficult to get to? First and foremost, he's his own agent. He doesn't negotiate during the season, so a lot of these QBs will sign extensions during the season. He just focuses on business. Secondly, any deal that Lamar Jackson signs is resets the market. It's going to be an awful lot of money. There's going to be an awful lot of money tied into this deal. It's not one that he can just do sat on the toilet over the phone. Any other additions to that one, guys?
Just a nice insight into how you do all your deals, for the sounds of it. But I think
Nathan.
Yeah, make sure you give him the full picture of that. Turn it to a FaceTime instead.
Full story.
I think that's it. I think it's the agent thing more than anything. You know, he's not got someone saying, "Yeah, this is a good deal. Now I've done the best we can. Let's get it done." You know, it's not the efficient process that it is necessarily. It's a lot of going to think about this, gonna take some time to go away. You're going to chat to my mum. You know, whatever it is. It's a thought process for him. I don't think it's anything around like not wanting to do it. I'm sure he wants to do it. I don't see any reason why he doesn't love the team and want to be here long term. But you know, he's just got to put some thought into it, really, hasn't he?
So in Cummins today, obviously, nobody wants to do business with the Ravens. Awuzie has come back. The one I really like here, one I really do like, is the signing of Jalen Hawkins, safety free agent from the Pats. I really like this move. I think. Nathan, do we go as far to say he's an upgrade on two that we've lost?
Yeah, I'd say so. And the kind of player that he is a bit different to what we've lost as well. And I think we're going to see maybe more going forward of Hamilton not being traditional safety. So you need help alongside Starks, and you might be in a situation where you see all three of them, on the field at the same time. So you need to have good depth, and the man has great depth. I think was he like 87 rated from PFF, and good amount of tackles, good amount of interceptions. I think I saw in the chat earlier that he was one of the people that managed to make Derrick Henry fumble last season. So anyone that can do that's got a bit about him. I think it just adds to kind of what we wanted our safety room to be. So it's a good signing.
Yeah, gas station stops are also very important. You get some great food from gas stations. So you look at the tight end situation now with the Ravens. Obviously, Mark Andrews signed that deal in December. That was the nail in the coffin for Shai Likely. Obviously, there was thought that maybe they might be able to get a deal done for Charlie Kohler, but ultimately, again, the guys got paid by the Chargers. Fair fucks to the guy. I don't think the Ravens were ever going to get near close that money. One guy they have brought in today, kind of the ilk of Charlie Kohler, tight end Durham Smythe. I just think that's a sensible addition. But I also think that you come to the end of 2026, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a full reset in that tight end room. I think that this is going to be kind of Mark Andrews' last hurrah with how they've worked the deal with Mark Andrews.
Well, I love a tight end more than most, but the thing is, Mark Andrews.
DT, you've missed this, haven't you?
Right.
He's gone there.
No, I know why Rich normally goes to bed halfway through. He excites himself too much.
I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong, Tom. The Mark Andrews deal is a 2-year deal. It's not that easy to get out of it after 1 year. There's a significant amount of dead money. I think Mark Andrews is here for 2 years, and fully expect him to bounce back to form. Durham Smythe sounds like he should be a major in the guards, not a tight end. But the point is, we haven't seen the money on that, and I'd be really interested to see what we're paying him. I think this is an absolutely classic Ravens move where we don't necessarily want to go into the draft with a gaping hole in any position. So in terms of, we've got Mark Andrews.
You're one of your favourites, was it?
Blocking tight ends. We're probably going to draft a tight end, but we wouldn't want to go into that draft needing two of them. And now we only need one of them. And look, it's a blocking tight end. As much, I think a lot of people are gutted about Kolar, and I'm gutted about Kolar because I can't call him the polar bear anymore. But we've got a solid blocking tight end. Had a really good career with Miami. Went to Chicago last year. Has been in the system. Sorry, I'm just waffling now. But I think
someone jump in before Richard goes on about more tight ends, gaping holes, and bears.
The last point.
I mean,
he's the offensive coordinator knows him from. They were together at Chicago last year, so
indeed.
I don't know whether this was maybe one of his kind of suggestions. Obviously, they trust him to do that. He's a very good blocking tight end. Probably not used enough in the passing game. I've seen. Just in fantasy, he's had occasional games where he has popped off as well. So probably got a bit. I wouldn't still be surprised if there's early draft capital used on a tight end to bolster the room out to go into. And I think the answer probably, Tom, is somewhere in the middle. I think we are looking for Andrew's successor, and obviously Durham Smythe isn't the answer. So I'm fully expecting us to address kind of that in the draft. But don't get me wrong, Smythe is a blocking kind of option, and it's great for a line that needs all the help it can get still.
The last thing you need is more whiskey, Richard.
He's unbelievable. He's unbelievable, and he is just not cut from the same cloth as any of. He is just unbelievable. Every episode he fucks off early, drops some rude innuendos, and now he's mentioned
he's going to toast to them.
Gaping holes. No, Richard, what is it you say? A tight end a day keeps the dating apps away.
That's how he gets the tight end today. But no, I think it's a good addition on the tight end perspective. I think, like you say, he knows Doyle. Doyle knows him. He's probably came with a recommendation, so that's good. I can probably see us. We're obviously definitely going to draft at least one tight end. We may even go for two for a bit of a late round kind of risky pick if there's someone we like that maybe puts a bit of competition on there. Maybe even goes a practice squad player that can develop for the future. You know, then Mark Andrews is there. He's a great voice. He knows our schemes. Obviously, they're going to change, but he's someone that can then bring the new guys through and basically train up a replacement for him in a couple of years' time.
Well, we all know, right, that we still have to draft two of them, so that the second one is better because that is the Ravens' prophecy.
Yeah, the second tight end is always better.
Indeed, it is.
Anyway, so
do you reckon, like,
can we please talk about a different position?
Wide receiver.
What's your favourite position, Nathan?
Just the one where the pod ends.
We're getting to that. I mean, look,
wide receiver is a good talking point, to be fair, because there was talk that Bateman was going to be on the potential, like, you know, trade block. No one's obviously come in for him, or it's not necessarily been done. But is it something that you guys think that we need to address, wide receiver?
We have when we had Ken on the show, we discussed this, and obviously the question was about, you know, wide receiver one as Lamar ever had one, and to which Ken said, well, if you look across all 32 teams in the league, if Zay Flowers isn't in the top 7 of wide receivers across the league, then your argument about having a number one wide receiver is null and void. Look, the AJ Brown one, again, I discussed this last night on the Patriots podcast. If AJ Brown is pissed off and acting how he is in Philly over his lack of usage, his receptions and targets, then AJ Brown isn't the guy for the Ravens, and he's most definitely not going to be the guy for the Patriots either. That, you know, they've just moved on from Diggs, brought in Romeo Doubs. You know, I just AJ Brown is one that you just don't go near. And the great thing about the Maxx Crosby trade was we didn't then have the capital to go and make a fucking stupid decision like trading for AJ Brown. Now we have trade capital. I'm hoping that Eric DaCosta hasn't been sniffing glue and makes a move for AJ. I don't think he will, but that's not a move that he was. Basically, to sum up your points, your question, DT, I don't think they need to do anything immediate at wide receiver. Nathan may piss on my bonfire there.
Not to that extent where I would kind of give away significant draft capital.
Probably just need to like re-sign D-Hop or something like that. That's kind of the move to make, or someone of that ilk.
I mean, Juwan Jennings is still currently a free agent and fits that kind of mold. He's a bit different to Zay. Probably doesn't seem to be the kind of player that would get, you know, in an arse if he only gets 4 targets a game. And
Brandon Ayuk's just been released as well.
I think he's going to the Commanders. I think that seems to be the buzz. But again,
injury-prone wide receiver with an injury-prone quarterback. What could go wrong there for the Commanders?
I think Brandon Ayuk might be a bit too problematic off the field, given what kind of went down in San Francisco. But you know, problematic wide receivers are nothing to you know, they are divas. It's kind of within the nature. I don't think that skill positions are something we should be worrying ourselves with too much. And I think EDC has come out and said that he still wants to address, the interior line a bit more. And if there's something that can be done there, again, not first round level, but I don't know who could possibly be on the block. And to be fair, up until the draft night, you still see these cuts. There will be surprise cuts made. So, and it is the Ravens' way to pick up on those kind of guys because they love signing people that don't count towards the comp pick formula. So it's still very wide open in terms of who could be the guy. I don't expect it to be a splashy name. Maybe a name that would have been splashy 3 or 4 years ago. That seems to be the Ravens' philosophy when it comes to wide receiver. Get someone who was amazing 4 years ago and just throw at it and see if it sticks. Again, like DT just said, I wouldn't be surprised if D-Hop comes back for another year. I think he was probably underutilized last season.
I think we're good at wide receiver. Zay's going to carry on catching 15 balls a game. Bateman's going to carry on being in acres of space and not being passable. And all Taz Walker does is catch touchdowns. So we don't need to go and get a splashy wide receiver. I just think we didn't not make the playoffs last year because wide receivers didn't make enough plays. We didn't make the playoffs last year because we got physically bullied on both lines. And I think that just has to be where the focus is. And I'm glad that so far that's where the focus has been.
LaJohntay Wester, do we see more? Is there potential to see more of him this year across the line?
I think he's another one really on the bubble to make the team. Kind of a specialist punt returner and kick returner. And yeah, I don't know. I think maybe beyond a few gadget style plays, I don't think he's going to be on the field as a wide receiver.
It's one of those ones, like, if we don't end up with D-Hop back, then we've got a few guys that can fit in that third slot that could make an impact. And like you say, we have Zay does what he does. People don't see him as this top wide receiver because he doesn't make huge, deep runs and catch spectacular touchdowns. Like, he is a slot receiver, if anything. Like, he's in the middle. Like, we get those quick balls out to him. He makes yards after the catch. Like, he still leads like a lot of stats in like top 10 for yards or whatever it was last season. Like, he's a really good receiver and he plays well with Lamar. Like you say, Bateman's often in open space. We just don't get the ball to him either because our O-line was terrible and Lamar didn't have time to kind of go through his options, or it just didn't click last season. But we've seen flashes in the past of what it can be. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the new coaching staff, see what Doyle's going to cook up. It's a complete enigma at the moment as to what kind of play calling Doyle's going to be. He's not done it before. No one's seen it. Like, there could be some great things coming.
One last question, and this question leads us on to an announcement at the end of the show from Rachel Simpkins via YouTube. Who do we think the Ravens will draft in the first round? I know EDC has been known to take back to get more picks. Do we think this is likely? I know it's early days as we are still in free agency. We kind of touched on it before, didn't we? That we wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens did indeed trade back. I know Nathan Dickey, it was kind of your way of thinking there, wasn't it, with the draft?
I feel like this is the kind of draft where the Ravens will just see how it falls after the first maybe 8 or 9 picks, and they've got the ability to move up. And I think after the not trade of Crosby, that there's definitely potential to go up. I would say that if there's a lineman that they've got a first round grade on or a pick 14 grade on, I would probably suggest that's where they're going to go. If not, then they might move backwards. It just feels like it's one of those ones where you either you show that aggressiveness and really jump up to someone you really like, or you just kind of let it get to that 10th pick and just see. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple of like good linemen hanging around that 10 to 14 range. Maybe they just jump up 1 or 2 spots to get one. If they're not there, then you start to see the potential of moving backwards and just addressing a lot of options kind of later on.
Yeah. Look, before we wrap up, we've mentioned the draft a couple of times. We've alluded to on the show a couple of times over the last month or two about an event happening for draft night. lot of some information is starting going out on socials. But we'll drop it live on YouTube now while we're here. Draft night, April the 23rd, the Hippodrome Casino, London's Leicester Square, in the Paddy Power Sportsbook Bar. Ravens Across the Pond, along with the Across the Pond Sports Network, in conjunction with our sponsors, Stacked, are throwing what we expect and what we want to be the biggest fan-led draft night event in the UK. This is something that when we set up our community and when we started down this journey, we were always kind of thinking, well, what can we do for fans of our show, members of our community, but members of other people's communities? A lot of the NFL community in the UK, I think, is fair to say it's very kind of secular, very singular, like kind of us against them mentality. We wanted to do an event where every fan is welcome. Every podcast is welcome to come down. Every podcast come down and shoot your own stuff down there. We've got Super Bowl winner in attendance, Pro Bowl participants, a Chicago Bears legend, Sean Gale. You would have seen him, covering the NFL on Sky back in the good days with Kevin Cardell. He's going to be down there doing a Q&A session, bit of a fireside chat. There's going to be all kinds of stuff going on. A lot of work has gone into this, by myself, not just by myself, by all the guys you see on the screen now, all the guys in the background, the guys who can't be on the show, feedback from the community. It is going to be a huge event. We're going to drop the ticket link live on socials tomorrow. If you want to get down, it's going to be the place to be to watch the NFL draft. The best venue in London to watch NFL, 57 screens. There's going to be draft night themed menus, drinks, all the Simmons. It is going to be off the charts. Does make the fact now that we have actually got a first round pick in this draft even more fucking superb. But yeah,
we're about to get a Maxx Crosby cardboard cutout at one point just to feel a bit better.
Yeah,
about
I was going to take Maxx Crosby on the Aviva West Coast Pendolino service from Liverpool down to Houston. I would have had some looks there. But yeah, guys, we're all going to be there, aren't we?
Sure.
Absolutely. So
Yeah,
you can get to speak to Rich about tight ends in person if you are that way inclined.
It could get messy. I'm planning on being awake for about 27 hours in a row, and that's probably not going to end well.
No. Well, it might end well for you. But yeah, no, we'll drop the tickets. There's a couple of the guys that are, a couple of podcasts have already said they're coming down. As I say, it's not just the Ravens. We've got New York Jets fans coming down. We've got Patriots fans coming down. The Patriots Touchback podcast is going to be there. The guy who runs that, DJ, is over in Portugal at the moment. He is flying back over for the draft night event. Look, it's going to be off the scales. Doors open at 9 o'clock. It's going to be going till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. There's going to be all kinds of stuff going on. It is a case of, if you are not there, you are going to miss out. You're going to meet so many great people, so many content creators from the NFL community in the UK. As I say, this isn't just for us. This isn't just for Ravens. This is for everyone. And with that comes the end of our show. Nathan, Dickie, thank you very much for turning up as always. DT, the Scarlet Pimpernel, Houdini, Casper. No, I think of other people that have gone missing. I was going to say
it's Cheltenham week.
Yeah, I was going to say Madeline McCann, but she hasn't returned. At least you've returned. Thank you for turning up and doing tonight's show, DT. It's good to see you. I hope the missus and baby are well. Us four as a collective have been Ravens Across the Pond. Make sure you like and subscribe on Spotify and Apple. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on all socials. As I say, the links for the tickets are going to go live tomorrow. As always, gents, it's Always a pleasure, never a chore. We'll see you on the next one, guys. See you later, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Ravens Across the Pond. We'll see you next time.